Hare Krishna, Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ever since Srila Prabhupada disappeared on 14th of November 1977, ISKCON Mumbai Group's GBC's attempt to take over Srila Prabhupada's position of Diksha Guru in the movement has been mired in controversy. Devotees in ISKCON have been questioning the legitimacy of the different versions of their unauthorized Guru system, beginning with the year 1979 till date. Whenever this issue crops up, the GBC comes up with innumerable arguments to support and justify its unauthorized Guru system in its different avataras, the latest avatara being the no objection Diksha Guru system. In trying to justify its unauthorized Guru system, the GBC ends up appearing confused about its Siddhanta on the Guru system. In trying to counter the various arguments against their unauthorized Guru system, the GBC inadvertently contradicts itself, damaging its own credibility. Let us look at some of these conflicting arguments of the GBC. The first case is that of Shiksha Parampara and Guru Shishya Parampara. When it is pointed out that the Diksha Guru must be a personality in the Guru Parampara, like the 32 Acharyas of our Sampradaya, and questioned why are the Diksha Gurus of ISKCON not mentioned in the Parampara list? Why does our Parampara list stop at the 32nd Diksha Guru? When they are confronted with this question, what do they come up with? In the 80s, it was a practice in ISKCON to mention the Diksha Guru, whoever was the current Acharya, as the 33rd in the Parampara, like this edition of the Bhagavad Gita, which listed Harikesha Swami as the 33rd Diksha Guru in the Parampara. But later, the GBC banned this practice of declaring the ISKCON Diksha Gurus as 33rd in the Parampara. When asked why, the GBC says that ours is a Shiksha Parampara.
And in fact, if we trace our Sampradaya, which is mentioned in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, we find this is a Parampara, but we see it is a succession depending on hearing, which we say is a Shiksha Sampradaya. It's not based on Diksha at all. It's based on hearing. So our Sampradaya itself is a Shiksha Sampradaya based on the hearing process. And what are we getting? We're getting knowledge through that process. And of course, knowledge is most significant for us in advancing in devotional service. So we have a whole series of whatever like this. Up until the present time, we have all these different personalities. And of course, our acharyas like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada could have chosen a Diksha Sampradaya to trace because all of our previous gurus had gurus and they had gurus by Diksha as well. But he didn't do that. He traced a Shiksha Sampradaya to emphasize the fact that the passing of knowledge is very important for us, more than the passing of mantra through Diksha.
And anyone who is not in the Parampara chain can also become Diksha Guru. It is not necessary to take Diksha from someone who is part of the Parampara list. Look at Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj, who were initiated by someone else who was not listed in the 32 personalities in the Parampara. Therefore, where you take Diksha from is not important. You can take Diksha from someone who is not one among the 32 in the Parampara, but you are still linked to the Parampara. How are you linked to the Parampara? Through Shiksha. Hence, ISKCON Diksha Gurus need not be listed in the Parampara. This is their argument. Now, when they are confronted with another fact that Srila Prabhupada emphatically stated that unless one is ordered by the predecessor Guru, one cannot become a Diksha Guru. And we ask who authorized their Diksha Gurus to become Diksha Guru. They say ours is a Guru Shishya Parampara.
We are all Prabhupada's Shishyas, Shiksha disciples. Because Prabhupada हमारे pre-eminent शिक्षा गुरु है और ये गुरु परंपरा आगे बढ़ाने के लिए गुरु जो है शिष्य गुरु बनते हैं, वो और शिष्य बनाते हैं. हमारा एक्चुअली मूवमेंट इज मेकिंग गुरुस. सबसे ज्यादा कोटेड वर्ड्स, वन ऑफ द मोस्ट कोटेड वर्ड्स ऑफ प्रभुपाद इज हमार आज्ञा गुरु होए तार ए देश. मैं ये रेफरेंस ढूंढना चाहता हूं, लेकिन श्रील प्रभुपाद जी चाहते थे कि उनके आंदोलन में लाखों लाखों आचार्य हों, हर कोई गुरु बने और हर कोई जो है they expand this mission.
Guru gives Diksha to many disciples, who in turn become Gurus and give Diksha to many more. This, the GBC says, is the law of disciplic succession. There is no need of specific authorization. One automatically becomes Diksha Guru after his Guru disappears, and he initiates many disciples, who in turn automatically become Diksha Gurus after their Guru disappears. This is our Guru Shishya Parampara. In other words, a parampara of Diksha Gurus and their Shishyas. So, to answer one argument, the GBC says that our parampara is Shiksha Parampara, and to answer another argument, the GBC says that it is Diksha Parampara. Well, our parampara has to be either Shiksha Parampara or Diksha Parampara. It cannot be both, isn't it? That is plain common sense. Unless, of course, the GBC says that our parampara is some sort of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneously Shiksha Parampara and Diksha Parampara. But the fact is, you go through entire works of Srila Prabhupada, he never uses the term Shiksha Parampara to describe our parampara, nor does he describe our parampara as a Diksha Parampara or a Guru Shishya Parampara. Prabhupada never uses these kind of terminologies. So, these two arguments of the GBC, Shiksha Parampara and Guru Shishya Parampara, make it appear confused about what our parampara is. Does the GBC know whether our parampara is Shiksha Parampara or is it Guru Shishya Parampara, Diksha Guru Parampara? The GBC needs to sort that out quickly. Now, the next confusion of the GBC is whether their Diksha Gurus are pure devotees or not. When we say Srila Prabhupada ordered only Ritviks to initiate on his behalf, they accuse Ritviks of saying that ISKCON has no pure devotees who can give Diksha. When the GBC is questioned that if ISKCON's Diksha Gurus are pure devotees, then how are the ISKCON Mumbai group's Diksha Gurus falling down? When this question is put to the GBC, what do they say? They say, Guru need not be a pure devotee. So, are the ISKCON Diksha Gurus pure devotees or not? This is another point that the GBC appears confused about and needs to firm up its understanding. The third confusion of ISKCON Mumbai group's GBC is whether Diksha Guru has to be ordered by the predecessor Guru or do the disciples automatically become Diksha Gurus? When we question the GBC, when did Srila Prabhupada order them to become Diksha Gurus? They say that Srila Prabhupada said, disciple of my disciple, grand disciple, etc. on 28th May 1977. When we point out that the July 9th directive for Ritviks is the outcome of the May 28th GBC meeting, they say that disciple automatically becomes Guru and there is no need of order. Either order is essential to become Guru or it is not. Either you say Prabhupada ordered on May 28th become disciple of my disciple, or you say that order of the Guru is not needed to become a Guru. You cannot say both. How can it be both? This is another big confusion amongst the GBC. Then comes the GBC's fourth confusion about whether the July 9th directive is Srila Prabhupada's order or is it Tamal Krishna Goswami's. When the GBC is confronted with a demand to justify why they are disobeying Srila Prabhupada's July 9th order, they claim that the July 9th letter was Tamal Krishna Goswami's letter and not Srila Prabhupada's. On the other hand, when the GBC is confronted with the evidence that Srila Prabhupada's July 9th order to implement Ritvik's system of initiations in ISKCON was particularly meant for the time after his disappearance, the GBC says that Srila Prabhupada rescinded the July 9th order on October 18th in a conversation. And the July 9th order was only temporary till his disappearance. Well, either the July 9th order is Srila Prabhupada's or it is Tamal Krishna Goswami's. It cannot be both, isn't it? If Srila Prabhupada's July 9th order is temporary, that means it is Prabhupada's order. If it is Tamal Krishna Goswami's, where is the question of temporary or permanent? But the GBC seems confused about this, oscillating between Tamal Krishna Goswami and Srila Prabhupada from time to time. Honestly, they should decide on whose letter the July 9th directive of Srila Prabhupada is. Otherwise, if they keep coming out with their contradictory statements, it is going to hurt their credibility big time. Another thing that the GBC is highly confused about is That is the fifth confusion. That is, whether the Diksha Guru is essential to instruct his disciple on his service or not. When we point out that Srila Prabhupada's July 9th order is meant for the time, particularly after his disappearance, based on its link to the May 28th meeting of the GBC with Srila Prabhupada, the GBC says that a living Diksha Guru is essential to instruct the disciple in his services. If the Diksha Guru is not living, then how will the disciple receive instructions on his services? But then, when faced with the problem of their temple precedents, that devotees in their temples don't do their respective services by claiming that their Guru Maharaj has given them some other service, the same GBC passes a resolution number 405G of 1999, stating, temple presidents and project leaders are fully responsible for engaging the devotees in their charge. Gurus must first consult with a temple president before talking to a disciple about changing their service. So, the same GBC which said that living Diksha Guru is essential to instruct the disciple on his service, the same GBC says that the Diksha Guru cannot talk to a disciple about his service without the permission of the temple president. That means the GBC is saying that the disciple need not be instructed on his services by his Diksha Guru. It is the temple president or the project leader who will instruct each devotee. In some rare case, suppose if the Diksha Guru wants to instruct his disciple on his service, he has to take the permission of the temple president. Suppose the temple president refuses, then the Diksha Guru cannot instruct his disciple on his service. That means, by this resolution, the GBC has actually said that a living Guru is not essential to instruct the disciple on his services in the temple. Rather, the temple president or the project leader is more important in instructing the devotee on his service. This contradicts their own stand that Ritvik system cannot be followed because living Guru is essential to instruct the disciple on his services. Either a living Guru is a must to instruct the disciple on his services, or a living Diksha Guru giving instruction to the disciple is not a necessity, temple president can also give. It cannot be both. Again, the GBC appears thoroughly confused about its stand on whether the disciple necessarily must receive instructions from his Diksha Guru on his services or not. Yet another major confusion, the sixth confusion, is pertaining the need of Shastric evidence for a Guru system. When confronted about how the Ritvik system of initiations was implemented by Srila Prabhupada in his presence from 1970 to 1977, and that Srila Prabhupada ordered on July 9th, 1977, that the same system must continue even after his disappearance, the GBC comes up with the argument that a posthumous Ritvik system of initiations has no basis in Shastra. When they are countered about where is the evidence in Shastra for their unauthorized no objection Guru system, they say that the GBC is the supreme managerial authority in ISKCON, and it is within their powers to implement a system of initiations in ISKCON and keep changing it as per their wish, and that there is no need for a Shastric basis for their system of initiations, whether it is the Zonal Acharya Diksha Guru system, or the GBC appointed Diksha Guru system, or the no objection Diksha Guru system. In resolution number 301 of 1999, subsection 4, the GBC resolved, the GBC acknowledges that this body, meaning the GBC body, has since 1977 made changes in the manner in which initiations are carried out in ISKCON, is contemplating changes at present, and may well make changes in the future. So, the GBC have conferred on themselves the right to keep changing the system of initiations without the need for Shastric reference. For any system of initiations, whether Ritvik system or Zonal Acharya Diksha Guru system or GBC appointed Diksha Guru system or GBC no objection Guru system, whichever system of initiation it is, either we need a Shastric reference for it or we don't. But the GBC is confused. They say that one system, the Ritvik system, needs Shastric reference, whereas other systems don't need Shastric reference. How is that possible? Either Shastric reference, Shastric basis is needed or it is not needed. The GBC is confused about which stand to adopt. Then comes the seventh confusion. When confronted about there being no specific order by Srila Prabhupada for his disciples to become Diksha Gurus after his disappearance, they quote so many places where Srila Prabhupada expresses his desire that he wants his disciple to become Gurus, that he is waiting for his disciples to become Gurus, Acharyas, etc. They use all these quotes where Srila Prabhupada expressed his desire as the authority for them to become Diksha Gurus. At the same time, in their resolution number 401B of 1999, the GBC have declared that the true guiding principle for ISKCON governance must be that in every respect, the authority to accept disciples or to act as a manager and or officer of ISKCON must be firmly understood as derived from the sanction of the GBC body. Well, on one hand, they say that Srila Prabhupada's expressions of hope and desire are the authority for the Diksha Gurus in ISKCON, meaning Srila Prabhupada's desire is the authority for Diksha Gurus in ISKCON. On the other hand, they say that the authority to become Guru in ISKCON is from the GBC body. Either the authority to become Diksha Guru must be coming from Srila Prabhupada's desires or it must be coming from the GBC body's sanction. It cannot be both, isn't it? We cannot say that Srila Prabhupada authorized all his disciples to become Diksha Gurus, but unless the GBC sanctions it, the disciples are not authorized to become Diksha Guru. Srila Prabhupada authorized all of us to become Diksha Gurus, but without the GBC sanction, Srila Prabhupada's authorization is not authorized. Oh Krishna, that's quite a bizarre contradiction, but unfortunately, that is what the GBC is saying. And now, if that were not enough, comes the worst contradiction of all, the eighth confusion of the GBC. The GBC appears to be totally confused whether Srila Prabhupada is living or not. In resolution number 404 of 1999, titled Definitions of Guru and Divya Jnana, the GBC declared, Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, is forever manifested through his books, his murti, his teachings, ISKCON and the devotees who honestly represent his teachings. So here, the GBC appears to accept that Srila Prabhupada is living. The word they have used is manifested. What do they mean by manifested? Manifested in an impersonal way without being able to hear or see or do anything, or manifested personally? That is unclear. Probably the GBC wanted to steer clear of the word living because they wanted to reserve that for their quote-unquote living Diksha Gurus. Although, fact is, Srila Prabhupada himself said that he is living in his books. Anyway, we will give the benefit of doubt to the GBC and assume that when the GBC says Srila Prabhupada is manifested, it means not in an impersonal way, but Srila Prabhupada is personally present and living. Now, in the same breath that they say that Srila Prabhupada is manifest or living, they also titled their ISKCON law 6.4.7.2 as Ritvikism, aka posthumous Ritvik theory. The word posthumous, as per the dictionary, is born after the death of the father, or published after the death of the author, or following or occurring after the death. In other words, according to the GBC, after 1977, Srila Prabhupada is posthumous, and therefore the Ritvik system of initiations cannot be valid. Posthumous meaning after his death. On the one hand, they say Srila Prabhupada is forever manifest. On the other hand, they say he is dead. This is a very offensive confusion. The earlier the GBC comes out of this offensive confusion and repeals this offensive ISKCON law 6.4.7.2, the better it is. So you see, on the one hand, we see ISKCON Mumbai's GBC, which is confused on so many fronts about their stand on their own invention of the different Diksha Guru systems, which they keep on changing. On the other hand, we have Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON group, which is very simple, crystal clear, and straightforward in their stand. Obey Srila Prabhupada's July 9th, 1977 order to implement Ritvik system of initiations. No confusions. Srila Prabhupada is the sole Diksha Guru for Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON group globally. Hence, if the GBC wants to come out of its confusions and contradictions which are damaging its credibility, they should take the courage to follow Srila Prabhupada's July 9th order and implement the Ritvik system of initiations in ISKCON. Then they will set right the deviations and avoid stopping the Parampara. Hare Krishna, Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.